It's a Friday, and that means View from the Pew. Today, a pastor and his wife. What's it like being a pastor's wife? We'll talk to Kat and Matt here with Mac and us on KTIA.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. It's the 10th day of October in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy. It's a Friday, and that means it's View from the Pew Day. Of course, Frank, the voice, is in the studio. The cat in the hat. How are you there, Robert?
Doing good.
How's retirement?
It doesn't even feel like retirement.
Just feels like you haven't been to the lab for a while?
Right, but I'm still working.
Well, yeah, you're working your hiney off.
Yeah.
This horse farm.
Oh, yeah.
And Ryan's producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Today's a real treat. One of my favorite pastors, Matt McClures from Prairie City Christian Reform, is here with his, what do you call that hat? A ladue? No.
Fedora.
Fedora. I knew it was something French. And with his fedora and his bride of how many years?
12.
12 years. And her name is Catherine. But Catherine has never stuck, so she just likes to be called Cat. So we have a cat with Matt, and we have a cat in the hat.
Cool.
That's a lot of cats.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
That's what I thought. Matt, before we move on, I have a earth-shaking revelation. Okay?
Okay.
So I've been studying Colossians. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big pet person. I have 2 dogs. I love them to death. Yes, I'm one of those owners. No, we don't dress them up in blankets or booties or anything, but they are family. And I tell my pets all the time that Jesus loves them. And, of course, many people say, well, that's foolish because cats, dogs, pets aren't going to go to heaven. I have proof. 1 Colossians 23. And if you remain grounded and settled in your faith and are not moved away from the hope inspired by the good news to which you have listened, which has been preached to every creature under heaven and earth, I, Paul, have become a minister. Creature.
Well, you know,
Paul would not say creature if he only meant humans.
Well, you know, Saint Francis of Assisi used to preach to the woodland creatures.
There you go.
You're in good company.
I think my Coco and Picasso will be in heaven with me. Believe it. Just Frank doesn't believe me. He of course Frank's a what's that word I use? Agonist? No. Cat, what am I trying to say?
Antagonist?
Antagonist. That's what you are. My mother used to just say you're a troublemaker. That's what she said. All right, so how long have you kids been in Prairie City, Iowa?
4.5 years.
And before that, where were you?
Grand Rapids for 2, Boston for 4, and Atlanta for 2.
Where was the last one?
Atlanta. Hotlanta.
And where's home?
Here.
Where we lay our heads.
Okay. If you go home for Christmas, where do you go?
Florida.
Florida. That's where Mom and Dad live?
Massachusetts.
Met. My, oh, my. And you met in Florida?
Michigan.
At school. Mm-hmm. And you were in seminary?
College.
What was your major?
General Biblical Studies with a minor in communications.
Okay. And what were you studying?
At the time, art history. I left and then pursued commercial photography.
Okay. And can you tell me, I don't care who answers. Kat, can you tell me the moment you met him?
Yes.
Okay. Was it love at first sight?
No.
It
was a calculated social move.
Okay.
The most popular girl on the campus was always with this tall blonde-haired boy, and he was always with this boy with long dark hair. And I thought to myself, I bet I can get in with the girl if I just spent some time with the dark-haired boy. And Matthew was the dark-haired boy.
And so did you get in with the good-looking girl?
No, we didn't get along at all.
At
but
all?
now she's my lovely sister-in-law.
Oh, that was your sister?
That
his
was my
brother.
brother and his
Wife.
girlfriend, almost fiance. Yep.
Okay. So
Now wife.
eventually, she became your sister-in-law.
Yep.
Do you get along now?
Yes, very well.
Why do you get along now and you didn't then?
I'm not sure.
That would be something to figure out.
I didn't get along with my sisters then, and I do now as well.
Sounds like you were a difficult person growing
I
up.
was
Were
a
you?
difficult person.
What was the burr under your saddle?
I hadn't met Jesus.
Ah, I know that feeling. So when did you meet Jesus? Hard to say?
No, I think that
Some people
I
don't have a
became
date.
personally involved in a relationship with him in my late 20s.
Okay.
But I had all the knowledge from a very young age.
Yes. So you were a crock pot.
What does that expression mean?
You weren't a microwave. You weren't a road to Damascus. You,
Later? Yes.
later?
Very much so.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. And how about you? When did you start your relationship with Jesus?
Oh,
Right after she did, because you wanted the long-haired, dark-haired girl.
that's right. Actually, you know, I went to college saying, Lord, I want a Southern girl who can make biscuits. And I went to Grand Rapids, Michigan. He hears, he answers.
You were really testing him, weren't you?
I was. So my growing up in a believing home, I embraced Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior at about age 12. Had a kind of falling out in high school, and then a resurgence at the end of high school and on into it.
What was the fight about in high school?
My freshman year, I went in through a year of depression, and coming out of it, there was no, solid end after all the nights of prayer. And so I said, well, then I will go do my own thing since you have obviously forsaken me. So I also didn't have a good network of peers who were excited about God until the later part of my high school career.
Yeah, you got to hang around with the right people.
Yeah,
Playmates and playgrounds. Those are the things that can throw you off or make your life.
that's right.
Matt and Kat McClure, he is a... now, are you co-pastors? You're the pastor, and you're the pastor's wife.
I run Catherine McClure Photography.
Okay, all right. But your connection to the church is simply that your husband's the pastor.
I'm an active congregant.
Okay, okay.
So I lead a 8th grade group of girls in the GEMS program for our church. I have
Okay.
my own discipleship group. I have a prayer partner that I meet with.
Okay. Do you play any instruments? Are you like the organist?
Nope.
No? Nope. Okay. My mother-in-law, God bless her, who is still alive at 94, she played the organ. And so everywhere that my father-in-law went, she would get the job as the organist, unless there was another organist there. And then, of course, she'd quietly, go in the background. So what do you think, Kat, is the thing you enjoy the most about being a preacher's wife? You can think about that.
Mac, it took me so long to say yes to Matthew asking me to marry him because I was going to be a pastor's wife. I think the thing right now that makes me happy is that God has found ways to use me, even though I never felt that I was qualified to be in a role like that.
Well, he doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So he's qualified you, right?
Yes.
And when he's preaching up on the pulpit, where are you?
Wrangling children in the pew.
Wrangling children in the pew. Isn't it embarrassing when your own children cause a disturbance during the sermon?
I'm just used to it.
Are you? My wife will tell you the story about how one day her and her 3 sisters were just gabbing, and her father stopped the sermon, made them all 4 stand up, and turn around and apologize to the congregation for making so much noise.
I have banished a child to his office during the service.
Yeah? Yeah. Well, I saw your kids running around here. You have 4, right?
So far.
Is that a quiver?
Not yet.
What's a quiver? 5?
A quiver is full.
Quiver. Is that what it is? Quiver is just full?
I didn't think a quiver was an actual numeric number.
Robert, you're the one with all the brains here. What's a quiver?
Well, it's some object that we're referring to that holds arrows, and usually if you fill it, you've got a lot of arrows in there.
You've got a quiver of arrows. So quiver is not a specific number like
No,
8 or 2.
depends on how big your quiver, the quiver is, and how many arrows it can hold. So
Okay.
yeah, I would think it'd be more than 1 or 2.
Okay. All right. Now, a little bit ago, we sat down and I said, how many children do you have? And you said 4.
Only 4.
And you said, so far. How many would you like to have?
We would like to adopt at least 2 more.
Yeah, yeah. There's a pastor here in town, and they're very passionate about embryos being lost. And so maybe do you know the Tims? Anyway, so they adopted 2 embryos and placed inside of her. One passed away, or whatever, didn't take. The other one split, and they have triplets. They have triplets, and they're in contact with the parents who live up in Alaska. So that would be neat. Where would you like to adopt from?
We would choose domestic adoption
I'm sorry, what?
here in the U.S., probably domestic.
Okay, all right. Chris Roloff, my boss, just said a quiver is a thing that holds the arrows. Well, we know that, Chris. We were trying to figure out how many.
However many fit in there.
He'll let us know.
At least 10.
At least 10?
At least 10.
So you might have 10 children. Well, I was the one that used quiver, not you. Yeah, never mind. All right. So when you're preaching, do you look at her sometimes?
Yes, but not in a visual recognition. When I look, it's not.
You just look in her distant, her direction.
Yeah. There's no recognition there. It's a connect, make eye contact so that you include all the congregation members, audience into what you're saying. But there's no.
I don't think it's a good idea to look at your wife when you're up there speaking, because what if she has a frown on her face? Now that's going to interrupt everything you're thinking and mess up your line of thought. And if she has a big smile, it'll probably do the same thing because you're wondering what she's smiling about, right?
Yep, or having a child jumping over the end of the pew, and always a big distraction. So it's a glance as opposed to a look.
I'm not trying to communicate to him during the sermon.
Okay.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
And in fact, my job is only approval. You know.
Yeah. Do you ever get done with a sermon and you said, "How'd I do, honey?" And she went, "What's the weather like today?"
I try to ask the question, what are your thoughts on the service today? Because it is more than just the sermon. It is how does all of the pieces fit together, and how did it fit together? And it's not necessarily, just about
The message.
Did you approve of what I said? But
you probably know what the message is before.
No.
Really? He doesn't practice it on you or anything?
No.
Doesn't run it by you? Check it for grammatical errors?
only if I happen to use her as an illustration.
He asks permission for
And
that.
then I ask permission.
Do you ever say no?
I don't think I've ever said no. Normally he has a good reason.
Yeah. All right. Great conversation. Matt and Kat McClure, Prairie City Christian Reformed Church, just a little east of Pleasant Hill. Service times are
9:30 a.m. and 6 p.m.
on Sundays.
On Sundays.
We're coming back live here on KTIA, Iowa. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit? We don't care. Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the hour on this 10th day of the 10th month of the 2014 year of our Lord. And it's great having you along on a Friday. It's View from the Pew. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, watching the chat. You can always log on at webcast1live.com and join the chat. Ryan is producing. He can take your phone calls at 1-855-244-0077. And, of course, The Voice. Frank is here. Our guests are Matt and Kat McClures from Prairie City Christian Reform. And shut the door. Frank's got a question. Who would have thunk it?
Well, I got a question for an individual question for both of you. Kat, my question to you would be, did you give up any kind of personal goals or any kind of thing to become a pastor's wife? And for Matt, I have a lot of experience with pastors' kids in my life, and a lot of times they kind of feel like they play second fiddle to the church. How do you personally overcome that in your home life and in your congregation?
Okay.
Do you want me to go
Yeah,
first?
sure.
So you're asking, what did I give up anything professionally when I chose to marry Matthew?
Well, to being a pastor's wife, did you have any goals that you were trying to?
I did. When I was in school, my goal was to be a fashion photographer and to be stationed in California and, work abroad. That was That was a goal for me at the time. But what happened to me in my graduate school experience is that I started photographing people that were close to me, and it became very evident that my future was in portrait work and not in commercial advertising work. So looking back now, I see that as a dramatic heart change, that God took away that desire for that lifestyle and took away that desire for that level of prestige and instead gave me fulfillment in something that was very portable and that was also much more conducive to having children.
Right.
So I think God dramatically changed my heart to be a better fit.
So motherhood is much more fulfilling.
She also has a career.
I love being a mom,
Yeah.
but I am an artist too, and God made me that way.
An artist through photography? Now, but you got a pretty good brain on your shoulders. You are you're the secretary treasurer for the Prairie City
Business
Association. You are part of the Economic Development Committee. And next year you're going to work within the Executive Women International, which is out of here in Des Moines.
Yes.
Now, you didn't marry no dummy, Matt.
No.
What drives that? What drives that ambition to help so many people that aren't just under the roof of the church?
Part of it is the biblical command to pray for your town, to pray for the people you're involved with, to pray for their economic, prosperity, and to pray for their spiritual prosperity as well. So we are not called to serve only our congregations, but to be a broader influence in our communities. So I think that's a huge push to serve and volunteer in these areas.
And plus, you're full-time with your portrait work.
Correct.
Now, when I'm just act like I'm a 6-year-old, because sometimes I'm that smart. Portrait work is when you come into a studio or you go outside and you create pictures of people. Is that a portrait?
That's a portrait.
But it's not a landscape.
Nope.
Could it be a puppy?
Puppies join in with certain families, yes.
Okay, but you don't just shoot
That's
puppies.
not my area of specialty, no.
Okay, all right. So help me understand the art part of photography.
So my primary portion of work is working with families. And I say that I'm a custom portrait artist. So I go and I find out what it is about that family that makes them special. We go to wherever they feel most comfortable. I go to their homes or to parks or to the lakes. I go and follow them when they go ice skating, and I follow them around at the state fair. I will go anywhere where they feel joy and love together. And then I create portraits along those lines. Most of my clients hire me for an album type experience, so they then have a finished art piece book that they can enjoy. We also do wall pieces, but really they hire me to tell a story of a time when they were together.
The other thing that she is
I like the way she put that.
Uniquely gifted is to connect with the clients on a level in which she can show who they are through the photographs.
Okay. All right. So when we're done today, we're done in 13 minutes. My guess is that your talent and your discernment could give me an idea of what type of album you might put together for this radio team. Yeah, I like that. I can see that. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, okay, good. Oh, hold on.
Yes, the
Breaking
second
news.
The second question, right?
Well, I had one brief question. In the photography now, are you dealing mostly with digital imagery, or are you still rely on film, Kodak film?
I was taught on film, but I actually switched to digital when my daughter was 6 months old. So 7.5 years ago, I made the switch.
And why, as a non-photo guy, what's the difference? I mean, you don't have to load film. You don't have to send it off. Is there a difference in the tapestry and the final product?
You can create beautiful imagery using both sets of tools.
Okay. All right.
Not only that, you got Photoshop, so you can do a lot of work to make it even look better.
And you can scan scan in film for further Photoshop work. So they're both really viable paths. It's just where you choose to have your overhead. That's a business decision.
Okay.
And it's extremely expensive film now.
Yeah. I would imagine it is.
You can invest in digital cameras and computers, or you can invest in film.
Yeah.
I have seen my wife do incredible things with film, though, that would be based on what Photoshop does. She can do in the darkroom.
Yeah, with Photoshop, you can make me look, younger, thinner?
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous?
It'd take a lot of work, but we can do it.
It's a couple button clicks.
Can you still get the double exposure techniques out of digital stuff that you could out of film?
I don't think so. But I used to make multiple exposures on a single piece of film. What I do now is composite, where I layer in Photoshop.
Yeah. Okay, well, this isn't a show about photography, but it's pretty brilliant. I love visuals, and when I was a kid, I had a darkroom in my house, and I remember that I took a picture of two kids roller skating, and the girl was back skating, and he was front, so they were like this, arms around each other's shoulder. And I photoshopped him, although it wasn't called that back then. Photoshopped him onto the corner outside the Walgreens in my hometown and passed the picture around school, and everybody thought that was so neat. And it was for back then. This is 1970, so neither one of you were around in 1970. No. All right, Matt and Kat McClure from the Prairie City Christian Reformed Church. You got your arm up. Do you have another question? Oh,
no.
Okay.
No.
So when it comes to, so this surprises me. So Kat, you don't assist him in the message, writing, helping him come up, nothing.
I really like my marriage, so no.
Okay. All right. And so you do that all alone? Obviously, you do it all alone.
I do it all alone.
All right. Because one of the interesting things about my pastor, is his wife's always right down on the right side, and he looks at her all the time. And he, as I'm sure you do, incorporate things that happen at home and with the wife and the family and into the messages, but you have to get permission first, right?
Yes, only with permission.
Yes. Has he... Go away for just a minute, Matt. Has he ever said something in the message that he didn't okay with you first? And you were upset?
There have been times when he starts a story and I don't know which story he's going to end it with. So there have been some times I have been concerned, and it's always been okay. But sometimes the stories start off sounding like something else.
And when you look down at her and she's got that look, you don't go, "Oh no, crud! Shouldn't have gone down that road."
I don't look at her then.
You don't look at her then.
No, I don't look at her then.
I want to clarify too that while I don't help him in his preaching, I am an active congregant in that my role as a disciple of Christ I take very seriously. So I also have a discipleship group that I work intently and personally with.
Women, I would assume?
Women,
Okay.
yes. So there are many different ways that we complement each other, even if I'm not helping him some of those more traditional duties, such as music.
And you said that you work with the 8th graders.
I do.
Why 8th graders?
I really want high schoolers, but they're not quite there yet.
Oh, so as they grow up, you'll grow up.
Yes.
Okay. And why the high schoolers and not the 6-year-olds?
Because I have a really dramatic life change testimony. And I think it's more beneficial to children who are right there struggling with those life choices at the time. I think that's where I can best be used.
Okay. Are you willing to share that sometime?
I would love to.
Today?
I could give you a short version today.
Okay. We'll take a break in a few minutes, and then I'd like to hear that short version. I'm assuming you know what it is.
I do know what it is, yeah.
Are you? Maybe you won't know which story she's going to start. And how it's going to end.
It's always interesting.
We talked earlier about life verses. Matt, do you have a life verse?
Yes. I think it's Jeremiah 20 or 21. Jeremiah says, when I said that I would no longer speak in your name, your word was kept up in me like a fire in my bones. Indeed, I cannot hold it in any longer. That would be
your life verse.
That would be my life verse.
Kat, how about yours?
Above all, love each other deeply, for love covers over a multitude of sins.
Frank, do you have one?
I'd have to think about that.
How about you, Robert?
Lots of them.
Not one in particular?
Not one in particular.
But don't you think we go from my favorite verse, my life verse is this, and then a year later it's something different?
It changes.
Yeah, because, the word is alive. And so you can even look at the same verse and it can mean something different to you.
Yeah.
Depending on when you are led to look at that.
Yeah.
So I don't have any one in particular. There's so many of them that are.
Yeah, and they mean something different depending on where you're at in your life.
Yeah.
I do try to get up every day and say, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief.
You know what a friend of mine said the other day, and I've got it written down. I want to check it out. I thought this was really cool. So Megs and I are hanging out, and I said, Megs, how are you? And he said, I'm good, but he said, I'm repentant today. And I said, what are you repentant of? And he said, I'm repentant of underestimating God. I thought that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I am repentant of underestimating God. Of course, mine's John 6:44. That'll be a long time till that one gets changed, and that is that the Father will woo you into a relationship with the Son. So, because I was a God guy. 50 years I was a God guy. Me and God were like this. People would ask, well, what about Jesus? What do I need Jesus for? I've got the Father. What do I need the Son for? And then on the 28th day of July in the year 2011, he changed all that. And he mugged me. Took away everything that I adored. Greed, self-loathing, lust. Took everything that was important to me and replaced it with the Holy Spirit. We'll hear Kat's story next.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us. to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News at 4:03, or at 4, and then at 4:03, it's Pastor Michael Mudloff with Westkirk Presbyterian Church and True Blue. My guests today are Matt and Kat McClure. Catherine. Kat is short for Catherine. And they are with the Prairie City Christ Reformed Church in Prairie City. How many congregant members or members in the congregation?
100.
100 or so? That's
Yep.
good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Kat, you were going to share, what do you call this? I call mine When Jesus Mugged Me.
Oh,
This is your life transformation story?
yeah.
Okay.
It's just a testimony.
Okay, yeah. So tell me how Jesus mugged you.
When I was 12, I had an older sister who was turning 16, and we had just made a transition to a new area. And at the time, through a series of events, she had invited a whole bunch of people from the public school to come to her birthday party, and they didn't come. And I observed it. And you know how sometimes you can make silent oaths and you don't even realize how they'll shape your life, but I vowed that I would never let that happen to me. And I chose then to make friends more important than my family or my faith. And for many years, I was the life of the party, and I was a drug abuser, and I had a lot of emptiness that I tried to fill with people and relationships. And so many people like to say, oh, I came out of it, and I did this, and I feel like God just reached in and grabbed me out. And he's been dragging me out ever since, and slowly molding and shaping me, to the point where this week we had girls come in and visit our church from a recovery center. And I was able to sit and talk with them and ask them for prayer requests. And I just said out loud, I was like, I was a drug abuser before I met my husband. And you could just see the relief wash over them.
Yeah.
And they just opened up and just talked to
Yeah,
me.
you were a safe place.
I'm a safe place.
You came and met them where they were at.
And while there are totally parts where, man, I wish I hadn't hurt my family the way that I did. Or my husband. But I also know that God has made it part of a beautiful story for him.
Now, do you still have contact with your family?
Oh, yeah.
Everything's good? Yeah, you told
They
me.
might be listening.
Yeah, 'cause you said something about your sister earlier, I think. Yeah, how much you care
I
for
have
her.
3 sisters and a brother. So.
Oh, my. Almost a quiver. And where do they all live? Are they spread across the country?
I have a sister in Pennsylvania, and a sister in Colorado, and then a baby brother at the University of Alabama, as well as a baby sister there too.
My, oh, my. And where are mom and dad?
Southwest Florida.
So, oh, that's right, because that's where you came from. Okay. And they got to be happy about your small quiver of 4 babies, which are age 7 to, it looked like about a year and a half.
Oh,
8 to 2.
8 to 2.
Well, I was close. Okay. And they're out walking the Skywalk system with one of your friends who's visiting from someplace. And so what's the most important thing, Matt, you think that as a pastor's father, or as a father and a pastor, that you need to pass on to your children? Beyond salvation. Obviously, that's, the most important.
The most important. Well, I was going to say the knowledge of God.
Okay.
Second,
I'm sorry. Do you have the knowledge of God?
I'm working on it.
Are you? Okay. You're a pretty smart guy, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Day by day, and that that has become another, I guess, life verse for me, because we watch in Judges that the generation grew up that did not know God, and then we see how that whole book went and how poorly that did. And later on in the Old Testament, we see God saying, "My people die because of lack of knowledge." So the primary thing that I want to give to my kids is the knowledge of God. Secondary, I would say, is knowing who you are. And so when we part for a walk down the skywalk, or if they're going out to their friend's house, I say, remember who you are. And knowing who you are defines how you act. So instead of saying be good, I want them to know who they are, and they are a precious child of God first and a McClures second.
Okay, I like that. Now, your oldest daughter's 8.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty smart. She was in here messing around and playing on the radio. At what age, and maybe it's not an age, at what point do you think she's ready or a child is ready to accept Christ on their own?
She was ready at 2,
Okay.
1.5.
Okay.
The boys, though, they're taking their time.
Well,
Okay.
very clearly, she has expressed a desire to live for Christ since she very first heard about him. And one of our other boys has really struggled, and he says very clearly, I just want to live for my own self. And that's a really difficult thing to navigate. Because really, that's what we as adults do too, right? We're either going to live for Christ or we're going to live for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tell people that we somehow get this idea in this world that we grow up in that there's God's will over here. And then there's this little devil on one shoulder and an angel on another shoulder, and they're constantly telling me what I get to do or what I should or shouldn't do. And somewhere in the middle, there's my will. And I always tell people, no, there's God's will, and then there's everything else. And if you're not in God's will, and we're not always in God's will, you're in the accuser's will. There isn't any happy medium, lukewarm, spit you out. So what's the hardest thing about being a parent? Forget what you do for a living. Forget what you do for a living. What's the hardest thing about being a parent in 2014?
Consistency.
Okay.
Because it's tiring.
Yeah, I'll bet with 4 kids and a full career and about 4 other volunteer things you do.
You can know what the right answer is, and you can want to look past the actions and focus on the heart issues, right? Because that's that's a importance to us. Focusing on the heart issues underneath underneath the behaviors. But the reality is that we get tired, and you can go over the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Why, Mommy? Why? But why? 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 Why is that green? Why is that blue? Why is that wrong? Why is that right?
For me, it's consistency.
Yeah, questions wouldn't be so bad. It is the same action that happens again and again and again and again. No, you can't take your brother's toy. 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 Yes, I concur. Consistency is probably one of the number one things. The struggle of a parent. And I think one of the struggles that actually lessened when we moved out to Iowa was the bleeding of culture into life. That is one of the big struggles too.
But that's less here than anywhere else, isn't it?
My experience, yes. Less than Massachusetts and less than Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, I've only lived in Iowa and Nebraska, but I am told by people who I am close with that live other places outside the Midwest that we're so blessed that the blending of the cultures, as you would put it, just isn't as distinct as it is on the East Coast or the West Coast or down south. I mean, what made you choose Iowa? Just the calling? It chose you?
Yeah. Lots of prayer. The experience was pretty intense for us. At that particular time, we weren't in a very good financial position, and I think I'm being generous with that. And so
we'll talk about that when we come back. I'd like to hear the rest of that story.
Yeah.
Kat and Matt McClures from Prairie City Christian Reform. We'll be back live here on KTIA, Iowa, powered by webcast1live.com. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 minutes before the top of the hour on this beautiful Friday, the 10th day of October in the Lord's year 2014. Tonight is a big concert at Lutheran Church of Hope. Matthew West and the band Cutlass in concert. That should be a lot of fun. I don't know why I say that because tickets are sold out. They've been sold out for weeks. But anyway, that's going to be a fun time tonight at Lutheran Church of Hope. And then, of course, this weekend, are you Michigan fans? Football fans in or not football fans? No. Don't care about football at all?
Not Michigan at all.
Oh, who do you care about?
University of Alabama.
Oh, because you have two siblings there, right? And you? Whatever she says?
You bet. Whatever she says.
Okay. And didn't you guys beat Auburn, or did Auburn beat you? It was a big upset last week, wasn't it? Or a couple weeks ago? Oh. No? Okay. All right. I don't know. All I know is that there's only one football team in the world that is worth their weight in gold and always has been. Best football team to ever walk onto a field and play the game. And the fans...
Nebraska.
The fans are the most pompous, arrogant people you're ever going to meet. All right. As you look forward... Well, here, let me ask you this.
Sure.
As a pastor...
Okay.
Have you had to bury a child?
Yes.
Share with me what that's like, because I can't imagine it.
Wow.
Is that too tough to ask?
Do you want me to share about it?
Was it in your current congregation?
No.
Okay, so because I don't want to talk about a current congregation.
But it is recent.
Yeah, it was recent. What was it like?
If you don't want to talk, that's okay.
That's all right.
I kind of sprang it on you.
Sure. So we had friends who had a sibling lose a child, and they finally just told their family, we don't want to talk to you anymore about it unless you've been through it. And then so our friend said, well, we know that Pastor Matt and Kat have been through it, so why don't you talk to them?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. So you guys lost a child?
Yeah, our first one.
Oh, I'm very sorry, I didn't know that.
No. So I was trying to prepare myself, and we were in email conversation about what they wanted their service to look like, and they kept stripping it down and stripping it down and stripping it down, and which worked out fortunate because they just wanted it at the graveside, and that day was very cold. I got there, and I was doing all right. I'd done a number of funerals already, and then I walked up and I saw the casket, and then I fell apart. And that's when the job kicks into overdrive, and I become kind of, it kind of feels like I'm out of body kind of experience, and I just go through it. This brought up though a lot of internal things for me. Having lost the first one, and it being a pregnancy that an ectopic pregnancy, we didn't get the opportunity to bury the child, and at that point, I realized I kind of felt robbed, and so I talked with Catherine a while, and we were talking about what we could do. And so
This is a decade later.
Yeah, it was a decade later. And so what we did then and what we decided on was we commissioned a piece of artwork. And we came up with a name for our child. So it was Nathan Jeremiah. And that actually brought a lot more closure to that wound. But it was an incredibly intense and difficult experience.
Yeah, I bet it was. And again, I'm sorry. I didn't have any idea. I was just asking as a pastor. Because my next question was, can you tell me about the greatest wedding that you've done? No, not that you've done. The greatest wedding, and maybe the answer is you because of his photography. Something that just was outstanding that you remember.
I would have to say it would be the one we did in July.
That was a good one. We got to work it together.
Yeah, Tim and Evie, and it wasn't necessarily that we got to work it together because that puts a whole lot of stress on us because we have 4 kids, and when mom and dad are working at the same time, the kids are required to be watched by another.
We brought a babysitter.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But for me, it was the experience of being outside. Two individuals who had worked really hard on their relationship already, loved each other deeply, and then the crowning moment, I think, was the quilt. The quilt was started by Evie's grandmother, and she passed away before it was finished. And then it was taken up by Tim's mom and finished.
Okay.
And so they called it the Unity quilt. And then I got to wrap them in this Unity quilt at the altar, instead of doing either the tying of the hands or the Unity candle. I think that was one of my highest
Unity quilt
wedding moments.
Yeah. I would imagine also, Kat, that as a photographer and having a husband that's a pastor, you get to see a lot of cool things around families.
I do.
That you take pictures of. Has anybody ever asked you for a family album around a time of grief?
Yes.
I bet that would be powerful.
Mm-hmm. It was very difficult the first time.
Yeah. Not ready for it.
It was really beautiful. He had been a soldier, and so they had the graveside service, and they played taps and did the folding of the flag. And so I'm glad that I was able to capture such a moving ceremony, graveside, but it's hard to do those things.
I don't know if it doesn't ever get easy, does it, Matt?
Doing funerals?
Yeah.
No, in fact, it's gotten harder because when I first got here, I was burying congregation members, and now I'm burying friends.
Yeah. Well, that's the music in the background, and that tells me our time is up. Kat and Matt, I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Hope you come back. Maybe we'll come back sometime and get your kids.
You're brave.
We'll do a radio show with them, and you can send it off to parents and stuff for the holidays or something. That would be fun. All right. Bob, you over there still? You all right?
I'm still here.
Anything on the chat today of notice or of importance?
Yeah, Ryan made a comment here.
Ryan?
Yeah, he said he almost muted your mic about the football.
Fine. Frank, what's your show about today?
Not sure we're having one. Maddie's got some plumbing issues at home, and I'll know later.
Okay. All right. But if you have it, what are you going to do it on?
We're going to be talking about ISIS and Ebola.
All right, and I'll ask you to do me a favor this weekend, if you would. If you'd think about somebody that you can't forgive. It's a name that when it's brought up around circles, you just kind of look away and don't want to pay any attention to it because the hurt and pain is so great. So this weekend, do me a favor. Say your Lord's Prayer and then ask God to forgive that person as you want him to forgive you. Have a great weekend.